Khabib Nurmagomedov. What to say about Khabib Nurmagomedov over recent weeks? He's a fighter that, for a lot of reasons, a lot of people have pretty high esteem for. And I think that in a lot of ways they should. He has definitely showed himself, to be a refreshing alternative to, say, the John Jones model of fighter, where everything's about the ego, everything's about their narcissism, and there's all sorts of things that he values above himself, and I definitely appreciate that. But he also has kind of become, for any lack of a better way to describe him, the annoying fucking scold at everybody else's party that wants to complain about absolutely everything that he sees, or every time that he isn't getting exactly what he wanted. And so, of course, there was what he said a few weeks ago about the ring girls. He says that he doesn't like them, and apparently he's got an objection to sexy women being involved in MMA. And of course, a lot of people didn't like that, because regardless of what anybody might have to say about it, the entertainment quality, they're not just selling fights. This is not just a sport that sells fights from the business end, it's an entertainment industry. The ring girls bring a lot of value to it in terms of the entertainment, the entertainment end of this industry. So much so that, as just as an aside, if I was the agent for any of these models that are working Bellator events as ring girls, I would flip my shit every single time that they have a telecast and they don't identify who these girls are, because it's a terrible loss of promotional opportunity for those. But anyway, that's actually not really the point of what I'm here to talk about. Typical male. You mention hot women and everything else just goes. But more recently, actually, Khabib has made himself to be a complete pain in the ass, basically by trying to manipulate the UFC's plans for the lightweight championship of the world. And so over the past couple of weeks, they've had a couple of really big fights in the lightweight division. And somewhere between these two fights was supposed to determine the next number one contender for the lightweight championship of the world. Basically the guy who's going to fight whoever comes out of this fight between Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira. And so, of course, those two fights were, on one hand, Islam Makhachev and Dan Hooker. On the other hand, there was that absolute glorious masterpiece of a war between Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. So somewhere between those two fights, we were supposed to determine who the number one contender was going to be, and it actually looks like it is going to be Justin Gaethje, for very good reason. But Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's not very happy about that. He basically came out and he took to his Twitter, and he sent a tweet to Justin Gaethje, and basically what he said was that, hey, your last few fights, you haven't won all of them. You've had a title shot and you quote-unquote fell asleep. But Islam Makhachev, he's won his last 9 and he deserves the title shot, not you, and you have to know that. And really the answer to that, the only valid reply to that is that, no, he doesn't know that. And as a matter of fact, there is a stronger case for Justin Gaethje to be the number one contender than there is for Islam Makhachev. Because you have to look at the last few fights. Okay, Justin Gaethje's last 2 fights in particular. All right, so one fight was against Nurmagomedov himself for the lightweight championship, and he didn't win. And then the next one was against Michael Chandler, but Michael Chandler was at least a top 5 fighter. Meanwhile, you look at the last 9 fights. For Islam Makhachev, he's only fought 2 ranked fighters in that entire time. The only top 10 fighter that he's actually beaten is Dan Hooker at number 6. And Dan Hooker didn't even have a full camp to go into that fight to face Islam Makhachev. So those 2 wins are really not a strong case for Islam Makhachev to vault to the front of the line for a shot at the lightweight championship. Now, I don't think that anybody should be surprised at what Khabib is doing. I mean, really, when you think about it, Khabib and Islam, like, they're not just friends. They're more than friends. They're basically family. That's how close that they are. Makhachev still trains at American Kickboxing Academy, where Khabib is a coach. So not only should everybody expect Khabib to advocate for Islam, because they're basically family, they should definitely expect him to advocate for Islam because he trains Islam. So anybody who didn't expect Khabib to come out and advocate for Makhachev, they should have expected him to, but just because everybody should have expected to, that doesn't mean that he's right. And honestly, I think that the biggest thing is that Khabib Nurmagomedov, as fantastic as his career was, that doesn't give him the right to continue to chart the course for the lightweight championship of the world, even after he's retired. If Khabib Nurmagomedov wanted to chart the course of this championship, he shouldn't have retired and he should have stayed champion. If he wanted to make sure that Islam got the opportunity to become that lightweight champion after Khabib was done, then he should have stayed until he had the opportunity to fight Islam. Now, he may have had his reasons for doing that, and I do think that they were good reasons, but the simple fact of the matter is that he did not do that. He did retire. He did give up the belt. Now, once you've given up the belt, you give up your say in what the future holds for that championship. You just put that back into the hands of Dana White, and now it's in the hands of Charles Oliveira. And while there is actually a lot of good reason to hope that maybe Charles Oliveira will come out of that fight against Dustin Poirier with the championship, and that he will eventually hold on to it long enough to fight Islam Makhachev, I mean, I don't really think that we've actually seen what I would call like a really, really good contest between Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and combat Sambo. I think maybe at one of these these hinge points in the history of the sport, where we might actually find out which base discipline is the best discipline. And I think right now the general agreement is that it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Based on the way that these Dagestani fighters have been doing, I think that it's possible that might change. That's all aside from this one basic issue. Is that Khabib Nurmagomedov, he has a lot to say about the sport, and everybody should listen to him when he talks. I mean, not about all things. The thing about the ring girls was batshit crazy, was fucking shitbrick stupid. But in terms of actually making the fights, he does need to stay in his lane. And ever since he retired as the lightweight champion of the world, he himself was the one who decided that the future of that championship was no longer his lane. He needs to accept that that's the decision that he made, and he needs to respect it.